Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Blown Speakers, episode 23, I believe. I'm starting to lose track. 23, LeBron James.
Michael Jordan.
Hey, I was going to purposely diss Jordan there and not mention him.
Of course you were.
But yeah, so again, I'm Dave Hoenigman coming in from Yokohama, Japan. And with us again is...
Hey, Montgomery Fox coming in here from Washington, D.C. April is upon us. It's great. Spring is here. Although we got a cold streak coming down here. Freezing the bulbs. Freezing the cherry blossoms. But I didn't plant anything yet. I'm still working on my early germination.
Oh, I think now that you mentioned, I think I saw some people mentioning snow. Is there snow?
I thought I saw. Yeah, they were calling for it. This always happens. Damn jet stream.
You know, my grandmother always used to pronounce Washington like Worshington. Have you heard people Worshington?
Totally. My mother, wash your clothes. I always still do it.
Wash
your clothes. Wash your clothes. Yeah, it depends. It depends on how lazy my mouth is that at the moment. But Washington D.C. here, the 51st state as we are. We need all your support there. Even from you, Japan, you can help us out. You know, you want us to be a state. I think it would be good for foreign policy.
Did the Nationals win their opening game?
Called off to COVID. Thank you. But yeah, I am wearing a national shirt today, showing it off. We are the world. We were the formerly reigning World Series champions.
Yeah, man, I was.
But, yeah, great stuff. No, we caught the COVID off the first week, so we had to postpone the Mets and just postpone the whole series.
Really? I didn't know that. Jeez.
Yeah.
Indians lost yesterday, but
yeah, sorry about that.
Looked like they had good pitching. Shane
I'm
Bieber.
so excited to dig into the emerald sapphire and gold here. They're a real baseball kind of sounding band.
Yeah, she often wears a Derek Jeter shirt.
Cheers. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Because they're definitely repping the Bronx. They're repping New York City. They love their Yankees. I saw them performing, a live performance. She's wearing her Yankees outfit. Mm-hmm. Totally. That's great. So shout out. I never would have thought we'd be talking about Renee and Deborah and Marie and Valerie Scroggins tonight. Let's
get into it. Okay, yeah. So today we are talking about ESG's 1983 debut album. They had a couple releases before this, but this is their debut full length. Come Away with ESG. As you mentioned, ESG stands for Emerald, Sapphire, and Gold. Is that right?
Right on. Yeah. So, yeah, just as any fun band getting their name together, they couldn't decide on a name. So I believe they went with the Birthstones. Two of them's Birthstones or Emerald and Sapphire. And then the G ended up being a couple things. And then they were like, oh, well, let's just go get some gold records. And so, but obviously two of the girls got dissed. I forget which ones they were. But Emerald's awesome. I happen to be an Emerald Birthstone, and Sapphire's cool as heck. So, and I mean, it's nice because even though ESG sounds, these are just three random letters that you're gonna probably. It's not a bad name, but it's incredibly forgetful too. I'd almost like to see Emerald, Sapphire, and Gold up there. That would look cool together. Some sort of Bachman Turner Overdrive. Because those bands were just coming off of greatness. Emerson, Lake, and Palmer, Emerald, Sapphire, and Gold. Like, it could swing. But then they're the not as much this album. This album cover is cool and gritty. But their other artwork is more pastel-y, like big colors, which seems to go with what they're pushing with the ESG. And then their look is very bold with colors. So anyway, it's an interesting name for the band, that's for sure.
At some point, some people were saying it could also stand for Enterprising Scroggins Girls.
Oh.
No, but the one you said is way more common. That's what the official, what they're saying, emerald, sapphire, and gold. But
yeah, sure.
Yeah, here and there you do sometimes. I think that's hilarious. Enterprising.
Totally. I thought it was extra sexy Scroggins Girls.
There you go. There you go.
Extra saucy. Yeah, fantastic, man. It's really fun that they, and like you had, we were talking about that. I mean, and of course I don't know, when did you hear about this band first, Dave?
Okay, like, so Buffalo Greg, I think, bought the well, I remember it's the artwork from the EP we're going to look at, but it might have been that later kind of collection thing. I don't know, when he was here in Japan. So let's say between 2003, 2004, or something like that. I think he lent it to me. Yeah, and I thought it was cool. But then, so that brings me to what I was going to talk. But that was not my first exposure to ESG. And I just found this happy coincidence I was going to kick things off with from here. I don't know if you would have reason to remember what was my favorite movie in high school.
I think so, Dave.
What?
Alva. Would it be?
You do remember? Oh, nice.
Would it be of course, what is it? Fang? No, what is it? Prince. Yeah, Alva. I own it on DVD. Vampire's Kiss, of course.
Vampire's Kiss. Wow, I thought you wouldn't remember. I don't. Nice.
Jennifer Beal.
Yeah, and just it was 88 or 89. So sometimes listed as 88, sometimes listed as 89. I was a big fan of this movie in high school. Yeah, me and some of my high school friends, especially Jake Baker. Yeah.
Jake Baker.
Yeah, I think Tony. Yeah.
Go Course.
Yeah, I think the whole gang, we were just big fans of this movie. We knew all the lines to it. We're quoting it to each other constantly. My sisters knew all the lines to it became like a family thing. Like what, I mean, just huge movie for us, right?
Yeah, your mom would be screaming to your dad, "Hey, honey, where did you put the oatmeal?" "It's in the file. It's under oatmeal."
Yeah. How can it be misfiled? No, well, certainly my younger sisters, Eileen and Kristen, knew the lines. It's fucking Tuesday, so just landmark movie in my teenage years. And going back to it later in life, I think it even has a deeper meaning than I thought I'd just go back in and be like nostalgic and fun to watch. But I actually think the movie says a lot about white privilege and how the ruling class abused the underlings and how they get away with it and blah, blah. I don't know, like okay. What's that?
I can agree with you there.
Yeah,
and I can agree with you in that. That's very nouveau and chic today to take a supernatural, inject a supernatural kind of situation into everyday life, and it allows you to expose the things that are really happening in everyday life. Because I'm naturally dreaming about Jennifer Beals in my bedroom. Anyway. So the fact that this would happen, and here I am, but I didn't ask for the vampire Beals. I just want Flashdance. But I agree with you. It's fucking great. That's why I bought it on DVD.
Nice.
after years of weaning it off from you in college. But yeah, I do own it. I haven't introduced it to my family yet. I haven't watched it in years. It's a classic.
Yeah. And I would say it does stand out. Like when I watched it again, I was discovering new things, and it's great. Like something you saw when you were a kid, and then you go back to it. Actually, because a friend of mine who he just knew I loved this movie, and just one time when he was in Bangkok, he just saw it, like a bootleg version of it, and he just picked it up for me on DVD. But yeah, so I kind of went back to it in my, in recent years, to the extent that I wrote an academic paper about it. The Madness of Peter Lowe.
Nice.
And
the Pistachio Pacino, Nick Cage, doing it all. He's fucking insane in this movie. That's why we love him, and that's why he wins an Oscar a few years later. So you're not on to nothing here, David, with this, right?
So you can imagine my delight yesterday when I was reading an interview with Renee Scroggins. And so what is this called? Culture Collide. I hadn't known this website before, but that ESG was in Vampire's Kiss. And I mean, I was amazed and I was kind of ashamed. Like, why didn't I know this? This is my movie,
So it's in the soundtrack.
No, they're in the movie. Look at this. I wanted to ask you about the scene in the '88 Nicolas Cage movie Vampire's Kiss. Can you talk about that? That was fun. Someone there was an ESG fan. The production company contacted us. We got to do the opening scene. It was so fun. I got to meet Nicolas Cage. He was very polite and wonderful to us, and we had a great time. I mean, I was like, oh my God, I couldn't believe it.
Let a UFO.
Yeah. So,
oh wow!
Yeah. So without further ado, let's watch ESG's cameo in Vampire's Kiss.
How about it?
Yeah. Yeah. So Vampire's Kiss is the late '80s. So this, so ESG. We're talking about early '80s ESG today, but it's still pretty freaking cool that they're in this movie, playing "Moody," one of their iconic songs. So let's check it out. That's great.
And Moody works because isn't the character of Nicolas Cage quite moody throughout that film,
to say the least.
Yeah.
And it's great how everyone's just grooving to it.
I've been to great hangouts like that here in DC, where it's just like active. There's it's like a wedding, but it's like in the afternoon or at happy hour, grown folk adults, and it's everything from people eating full dinners to full dance parties to people at the bar. There's just many worlds are happening. That's a great scene, and they're the kind of band that can do that can play grown folk kind of grooves. Their sound is real, because I mean you can hear that and be turned off to that. I think it can hit you. I think you can put it in a box too quick.
Which is why I want to play very soon. I want to play the original cut of Moody, because you got to hear it how it was originally recorded, and we'll get into the recording of it later. But I do want to play that track to kind of kick us off. But just before we get there, while we're still on Nicolas Cage, so I'm very excited.
Are we still on Nicolas Cage?
Well, me and many Japanese movie fans are very excited that
well, Renee was the one singing. She was the one up in front, and it's something tied your moody. So she's the one who met him, Renee.
Hopefully they all got to meet him, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, she was the one in that interview you just posted.
Yeah.
It said RS, Renee Scroggins.
So. But we're Japanese movie fans are looking forward to this, right? So the great Sono Shion are, we think one of the greatest filmmakers in Japan, is finally has made his first Hollywood movie with Nicolas Cage. That it debuted at Sundance in January, so it hasn't been wide release yet. But I was really looking forward to seeing people's reactions. The critics seemed kind of confused by it, but like all the like YouTuber music fans or movie fan people are going crazy about it, right? So I mean, this movie is going to be awesome when it comes out. Prisoners of the Ghostland. Like basically my favorite director and my favorite actor.
Right.
I mean, it's going to be kick-ass. So
that's going to be kick-ass.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Okay.
Yeah, he's the kind of person you just give yourself up to. When you're gonna go watch his movie, don't question anything. Just give yourself up to it. Which is why. What was the movie that he was so greatly used in? I forget what the movie. And all of a sudden, he's like, "Yeah, I got an evening with Nicolas Cage." It was a film.
Recently?
Yeah, it was out recently. It was like, wait, it's crazy, huh?
Mandy or Color Out of Space. I haven't seen that yet.
Maybe it was a really strange film, and I wasn't prepared to think about Nicolas Cage. And all of a sudden, it was like, oh, I've got a date with Nicolas Cage tonight. And then there's a quick 10 minutes in this film where Nicolas Cage is there. Or no, I'm sorry, it might have been Keanu. Anyway, those two are very similar. Because I was thinking what they're doing here is trying to make Nicolas Cage like a John Will. Is that what they're going to do? He's going to be like a
to a degree, from what I gather about the movie. Yeah,
exactly. So that's awesome, but that's great that ESG got in there.
Yeah. Okay, so back on point. Let's see. Just to introduce, we'll introduce the band members, then I'll play that version of Moody, the original version of Moody. So they're a family, right? Seminole, art funk siblings. Oh, there it says, Fox. See, Emerald, Sapphire, and Gold, or Enterprising Scroggins Girls, depending on who you believe.
Acronyms are us.
Yeah. Posed with their parents backstage together in 1980. So this would have been one of their first shows, from what I gather.
Well, they record that EP in Manchester in 1980.
Now, I don't think do they go to Manchester to record, or does
maybe they don't go there to record it. Maybe they just do it with them. Because that 80.
That was something I was confused about a bit too. But no, I think Martin Hannett comes here, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But in December 1980, that's when they do that. Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, so maybe they had done a few talent shows, but their star is rising in 1980, right? Maybe their show's getting a bit more sophisticated, and this is them backstage with their parents, backstage at the other end. Okay, so clockwise from the top. So this is Renee, right? So she's the singer. Like usually, do they switch?
Yeah, that's her. That's Renee.
Okay.
I think Renee did most of the front singing. Yeah. Lead singing, stand up in front, sometimes with the maracas and stuff.
And the albums have a lot of cool percussion on them. So this is the mom, Helen Scroggs, Valerie Scroggs. I'm going to say Scroggins, Helen Scroggins, Valerie Scroggins, Marie Scroggins, Deborah Scroggins, and the father, John Scroggins. And until I saw this picture, I didn't realize they're of mixed ethnicity, like my own children, right? So their father's white.
Yes. Yes, like my own children as well.
Hmm.
And I think Renee played the guitar. I didn't realize that also, at least on the record, she's credited with playing the guitar on this record. On a lot of the live performances, she's not out there playing the guitar.
And Valerie's the drummer. Is that right? We'll get into it.
Valerie's the drummer, and then Deborah's on bass.
Okay.
But I guess like live, she's just out there singing, but on the record, because the guitar work is great. It's really grooving. Yeah.
And the drums and the bass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let me just to give you an idea, they're one of the bands that well, how about without further ado, let's play a track.
It's a fun little and as soon as I saw them say seminal art funk, art funk, that's a fun little combo there.
Yeah.
And I don't think of them as art funk right away. I think of them as a couple other things. I like this other genre they use, avant-funk. That's fun.
All right.
But okay. I don't buy that either. All right.
We'll do that. We'll look into all these titles, and then we'll play the moody track. All right. So,
yeah, kids need to decide for themselves what's a jelly and what's a jam.
Yeah.
I'm not science here. I mean, come on.
So this is like a thread I was going to draw with our recent episode about Blue Cheer, that they were like, a bunch of kids who were kind of on the periphery or border of
skids,
intersection of a few different things that were going on, a few different forces that were in play. Like, so with Blue Cheer, we mentioned, kind of psychedelic rock and
end of the 60s, going into the 70s.
End of the 60s, all that getting heavier. And, they just put out an album at a certain time that, like years later, people call, heavy metal and doom rock and like, all the different subgenre titles we talked about with Blue Cheer. And I think this is kind of an example of that too. Like just, a group of young kids that put something out at a certain time where there was just a lot of stuff swirling around. And, all since then has been a mad scramble to define the band in a way. Like, I mean,
yeah. When what's great is that I see them as like a synthesis kind of band, that they were given the good fortune of having a family behind them, and then they all love each other, because every once in a while you get a family and they all hate each other. So that's good. That's some good soil right there. I mean, so if you give them, whether you give them an entrepreneurial business plan, they're going to, sell ice cream cones, or you buy them all musical instruments, something good's going to happen. But I hear so many different things. Like you're saying, they're at a genre bending kind of time in music. They're kind of like FM radio kids, really, because they're taking in everything. You can obviously hear them hearing all the funk of like the 60s, but they're also kind of pop trained. They got a pop sensibility about when does the change come, and then they move to the change. They've got a pop sensibility about what a song is, call response. I hear the Motown in their stuff, but you also know that they're grooving disco, like the New York City scene of disco has got to be hitting them, and they have to be hearing some rap, something about like this dance hall dance music that. So they know that there was disco, because disco's, ending right around now, but it's still there, and they know something's going to happen next. So people still love, so they're seeing all this stuff. You're right. And now whether or not, I think I don't know if these kids are going to punk rock shows, if they're doing anything like that in the Bronx, because I think they're just Bronx kids. I don't know if they're going to Queens. I don't know if they've heard of the Ramones. But when that punk element comes to, I don't know if that punk element came to them, or if they went, or if they're just doing their thing. I think they're just doing their thing, but I don't know enough about them. Maybe you can tell me more of that story.
Well, that kind of makes sense to me, but I think what I would say when I see this punk edge, what it means to me is that it's stripped down, right? So if you're going to say punk is stripped down rock and roll, or a fuck you to arena rock, right? Then ESG would be kind of stripped down DIY disco
Sure.
funk,
As
right?
stripped down as James Brown's band without horns, so you are stripped down when you don't have, horns and an intense, kind of backup section, although they did have a little bit of that. But yes, stripped down. You know who I thought about immediately when I heard about them, I heard them playing. I heard of the Raincoats. I heard the Raincoats playing in them with some of their just some of the and I don't know their whole story. I don't know if they're classically trained musicians, but I can kind of I don't know. I don't know if they are classically trained or not, but you kind of hear that punk element the same way the Raincoats just kind of like are, it's a, but they're not lo-fi recording, but you just hear some different eccentricities about their timing and their playing that aren't normal. It's just different. And I hear that in them, I hear that in them.
All right. Hold the thought about polyrhythms, because because I want to play Moody. Does Moody have some like polyrhythm?
Yeah, sure, maybe.
Okay.
I don't know for sure, but okay. But yeah, I do like Moody for sure.
Or and again, I just wanted to show like just the I mean, how many labels are piled upon what they did, right? Avant-funk, post-punk.
Yeah, that's what I saw that.
No Wave.
We're gonna No Wave, right?
We'll talk about No Wave very, very briefly, but because certainly something to look at. And yeah, dance punk. This is obviously them performing UFO, where like one of them will put on an alien mask and kind of it has that has a very like DIY feel, like like kids doing a talent show type feel. Like even in 2015, they're kind of going for that. So it's cool that they've kept that aesthetic in place.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's check out Moody. Okay, yeah, I wanted to play the track Moody off their first EP because that's what they were playing in that scene in Vampire's Kiss, but that doesn't really do justice to that song. I mean, it's cool that they're in the movie, but I think I especially like listening to this band's recorded material, and for this we'll get into the story, but they had a hotshot British producer came over to record 3 songs with them. This was one of them, Moody, and let's groove. Anything you'd like to say going into this? Or
well, you can see the pretty artwork. Now we see the emerald, sapphire, and gold. And I do want to put out a correction real quick. You mentioned Nicolas Cage again. No, I was having a little old white guy syndrome. Not me, but just confusing 2 white guys. Not Nicolas Cage. It was Keanu Reeves who appeared in Always Be My Maybe. Did you ever see that awesome movie?
No,
it's a friggin' awesome movie. Check it out. It's a rom-com. But in the middle of the movie, Keanu Reeves shows up and takes like one of the actors out on a date, and it's a hilarious scene. But he might as well have been Nicolas Cage. So anyway.
It's called Almost Be My Maybe. Is that what you said?
Always Be My Maybe. Yeah,
Always Be My Maybe.
Always Be My Maybe. Yeah, it's a great movie. I forget the Asian woman who produced it. I forget her name. It's great movie. What's her name? Anyway, so but anyway, that's but look at this art. This is great. I was searching for this album. You can't find this album. I looked for it on vinyl. 400 bucks. I found one for $400.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
So that would be the original 9/9 Records one, I think.
The original 9/9 EP that we're listening to now.
Yeah. Wow.
And then this is the same EP where I saw the dudes. I don't know if you're going to show that later, but and then we should mention this now that Moody and other tracks are heavily lifted in the hip hop world and sampled like 100 bazillion times,
especially UFO, right?
Yeah, like we're talking about this band as it's been kind of legitimized live but it has lived throughout in the hip hop world a million times because of their solid straight ahead beats. that you can speed up, slow down, do whatever the F you want to do with them.
And, you know, as cool as this album cover looks, I think this particular one here is the colors are kind of muted. Actually, that green is usually brighter, which I think I'll show.
Yeah.
I'll show soon. But yeah, I agree. I love this cover. All right, let's kick. I think I'm gonna play the whole song. It's about 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Let's groove.
Right, we can groove out.
Great stuff, huh?
Right. Like you could say, you mentioned the word polyrhythmic earlier. You know, the when that beat it's going, and it all of a sudden dun dun. You know, the when it hits those little, you know, that's like a, you know, you got these 4/4 beats, and then out of nowhere in the middle, there's just like a little accent elsewhere. Those are the kinds of fun things that people liked about this band. That, you know, they were just throwing timing, a little timing's off, you know. I mean, those things are happening in so many different great kinds of music, but you know, like you said, the way they were able to strip things down, do it like that. And since this is the EP, it really, I guess the sounds are great. I mean, it's a, you know, this is the same guy that records Joy Division and other bands in that era, and he just really captures them. I think it's this guy. This guy, Martin Hannett, he's the one that records him, and then some guy that Martin Hannett knows discovers ESG while they're playing at a talent show.
Yeah.
But ESG had been playing around for a couple of years before they're discovered, of course, by these guys, these like British guys, and they are getting some notoriety as just like a great family band. Because I mean, who isn't gonna love and support a family band? That's so great. And you see, oh, look at the sisters up there playing. And I mean, anything with a beat is gonna get the people going. So like, whether it's Showtime at the Apollo or other times, I think they did do the Apollo's, you know, talent shows, and they performed well at them. So they were like just doing their thing, you know, and they could have kept going or not. And then shit started to happen for them. It's just so fucking exciting when these sorts of stories happen to bands. And within years, they're playing with The Clash and Grandmaster Flash. And then, you know, and I mean, to think of the scope of this band, to think how fun it must have been for that ride throughout from 1980 to 1983 or 4 or 5. It seems like they started, you know, in 1985 when they disbanded is also when they started running some personnel problems and everything that bands go through. But they just crumble. I forget why they crumble. But then the frustration they must have felt to watch their music get sampled
again and again.
I mean, unbelievable. I mean, we could sit here, I mean, David, and talk about all the bands that used their music. It's really insane, but it really did happen so much that they later released a song called Samples Don't Pay. Sample credits don't pay our bills. In 1992, they release Sample Credits Don't Pay Our Bills.
Yeah.
That's like fucking, I mean, that's 1992. That's before Destiny's Child is singing bills, you know, pay my telephone bills. I mean, so this band is just cool. They're just singing great fun songs ahead of their time, you know. And I mean, it's just remarkable that happens to them, that these early albums become the soundtrack of rhythm for years.
They also opened for Gang of Four and PIL. I mean, so really they were, you know, among cool company, certainly. They kind of well, among other forces at play, the no wave movement, right? No wave was a short-lived avant-garde music art scene that emerged in the late 70s in downtown New York City. Oh yeah, so you were right, Fox. They started in 78. So that photo I showed in 80. Yeah, they might have been a few years into it at that time. Yeah, so no wave kind of reacting against punk's recycling of rock and roll cliches. So they were more into noise, dissonance, experimenting with atonality and stuff. So you could see how this scene would be attracted to what ESG was doing.
Well, but I think the reason why ESG is this genre pasta, you know, fortunato or whatever, this antipasto of genres, because everything's in it. Isn't everything in an antipasto? You know what I mean?
Sure.
You catch that? Yeah, it's because anyway, the Italian bands, because this band. I mean, I think people would call them no wave because they might, as you might mention this quote from Renee or one of the Scroggins girls mentions it. You know, they just love like the breakdowns of songs, and so he's like, hey, let's just make songs with just breakdowns, you know, and so most of their songs, they don't have a lot of changes. And I think that's what they mean. Like, oh my gosh, how remarkable. But, you know, that's just why you've mentioned it a couple times on this. Like, what does it mean to be punk or avant-garde or do things differently or to have no waves? You know, we got a high school in DC called School Without Walls. And it's because they go on a lot of field trips. You know, but it's just a silly thing, but it's a beautiful idea, right? We get what you're saying, art movement, but when you put it in words, you're kind of you're kind of destroying the concept you're trying to free by putting words around it. So why not shut the fuck up, you know?
Okay, but you know, writers probably put these words in place. You know?
I know, and writers have to use something. They can't send out smoke signals. All right, so I get it. School without walls.
Yeah.
But you're right. Maybe it is revolutionary and no wave to play the same kind of groovy beat the whole time.
Well, okay, see, that's what I think is parallel to punk, or an extension of punk, right? Just taking one aspect of a song and making it a whole song.
And making a whole song, right?
Yeah.
Like when when Bob Dylan's singing in the early 60s, they're like, what? There's no chorus, you know, like they can't, like, what's happening? He just sang 5 verses together and he called it the first line. What? You know, and like, what am I supposed to do with this?
Or, you know, I love Lou Reed's reaction to first hearing the Ramones, where he's saying they just cut out all the bullshit of the song and just, you know, kept in all the good parts. And like, you know, that's, I see ESG as an extension of that, just a different source, I guess.
Okay, yeah, right. But don't we also love Adele? And Adele is going to hit you with the pre-chorus, the chorus, and, you know, and then the verse, and then the moody buildup before the pre-chorus. You know? I mean, these are symphonies for our hearts, which we're suckers for too. But sometimes get rid of that, because I don't have a symphony in my garage, and I don't, you know, I can't be Adele. So that's why we need these things at the same time, which is why these British fucks bring it out of us. And I'm telling you, I get mad again where these, you know, who is this Martin Haberman person? Who is this guy?
Martin Hannett.
Yeah.
He produced Joy Division, Psychedelic Furs.
Exactly.
magazine.
But why do these Backstreet Boys need to show us our own American grooves the same way they did it the other times, you know?
Okay, hey, but at least the EP was released on 9/9 Records, so it's not like the money was all going to England.
I know, but David, I'm telling you the same thing. When I just went searching for these records to buy them, I couldn't find them anywhere. I had to buy it from Rough Trade Records in the UK. That last Thelonious album I bought was from the UK. What's going on, America?
How much did you spend on the ESG album? Was it expensive?
It was that, no, it was, I think it was like you said, it was the reissue sound. They reissued it in 2000. So I think it was just $25, but it was pounds.
Okay.
So who knows? But now the Brits are out of the union, so maybe it's better. I don't know. Who knows? But I just find that remarkably frustrating to constantly be fed by the British our own goods. But aren't they used to doing that, selling back to India, the motherfuckers? I'm so sick of the British.
Maybe it's like, you know, like your infamous School Without Walls. I mean, maybe these guys aren't looking at each other that way, you know? I mean,
know, you're right. We're all people. We're all people.
Like we're going to talk about how the guy who kind of became ESG's manager, right? And he went over to England and he became
of course.
Yeah.
I mean, it's of course. I love him. I love him. Don't get me wrong. I love him. It just makes me mad.
So I wanted to mention No Wave because it is going on and it affects the Ed Ballman. If I'm pronouncing, it must be Ed Ballman, who's kind of like their manager. I mean, he seems to me like a no wave minded guy. So we'll look at like the stuff he put out. And so, I mean, I just think it's worth mentioning because I think it opened some doors for them that they were considered, you know, part of this no wave thing to a degree. Well, this album is considered like the document of the no wave scene, right? Eno was hanging out there. I want to say Bowie.
Sure.
I think Bowie is probably with him too, hanging out. You know, put out this album. You know, it's a compilation. You got the Contortions, Teenage Jesus and the Jerks, Mars, and DNA. And this is kind of considered like as I said, a major document of the no wave scene. My friend Naoki Sato lent this to me once, but I feel like I didn't give it a proper enough listen. But yeah, so if you're interested in no wave, this is a good starting point. And of course, Eno always kicks ass as a producer, right?
That's great. And see, this is the thing about I never understood about no wave, because when I it's like a what is it, the Dada movement? What was that movement also? The
Sure, Dada, surrealism.
yeah, that Dada, and that kind of anti movement. I mean, because no wave in itself, that's like an answer to the new wave or something, if that was happening. But then the no wave, and I also think of no wave as being like a no, but then the music is danceable. Like the music is fun, and for some sort of subculture that flies a flag of no, they like to tap their toe and dance a lot, like, because the B-52s kind of get wrapped up into this movement, and I don't really know how that happens, because they're just a band, and all this, so I don't know who's waving who. Like if the comrades of no wave are just picking bands to join the club, or if this was a time in America when we leave disco, we're in the rudimentary stages of punk, but commercialism is trying to figure out what the fuck's going on, because I mean, you got so many things happening, so maybe that was the answer, right? Because it's overall no wave I think of as anti-commercialism.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
that's its bigger umbrella. Yeah. So whether you can dance to it or not,
it didn't have a long life either, right? But I mean,
I think it still lives.
The
essence of anti-commercialism.
Sonic Youth came out of there and stuff. But I mean, like, really, the pure kind of no wave scene, I feel like, was not that long. But
I'll draw a line to Billie Eilish. I'll say that that moody fucking emo shit that kids love these days, can kind of come out of this non-commercial. It's
sure.
Why is what you put together in your bedroom supposed to be commercial? But sometimes you tap into the vein of a people, of a culture, and everyone's like, yes, that, and I get it, and then you sell millions of records. I mean, so it's really, really interesting that these were happening at the time.
Let's see. Okay, yeah. To give you an idea, right? You got 1981. Okay, the EP, which we just heard, or we heard a track from. Okay, so I'm going to get into 99 Records in a bit, but so they put out 2 EPs, and then they put out the album we're going to look at today. So Montgomery, I think this might be what you bought.
South Bronx story.
Yeah. So I think it puts a lot of it together, which makes sense why All Music would point
reissue
in that direction. Yeah. And yeah, see what I mean? The green is actually better than it looks on that the YouTube one. Yeah, I think nice album cover. You see the tracks listed here. So the first 3 tracks were the ones produced by Martin Hannett. Yeah. So in addition to the albums we mentioned he produced, right? Joy Division, Psychedelic Furs Magazine. Also singles by the Buzzcocks, OMD, Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark, U2. They did a U2 single, or he did a U2 single. So it was cool that the times were such that that kind of these young kids kicking around in the city could attract, like, a big name producer to produce their EP. That's pretty cool, And maybe side 2 is a lot.
And I mean, and isn't that funny that so the seed is planted, and they're kind of like a British darlings band, like the Brits just love them, and they've loved them ever since, because it seems like a lot of other British bands flew their flag and celebrated them, over and over again. Now, I mean, we celebrated them too, but in a way that we just robbed them of their beats. And you were dancing to them during Wu-Tang and Kool Moe Dee and Beastie Boys and Big Daddy Kane and all those bands and TLC that took them. So we all loved them. It's so funny. That's amazing.
Let me just show you the back cover of that album. We haven't mentioned Tito yet, because that first the first
Right.
photo I showed was just the Scroggins sisters, but their friend Tito played played congos with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the back of that album. Renee lead vocals, Valerie drums, Marie congos. So this is congos, and Deborah on the bass. Okay.
So this is one of the many documents out there. There's several online that show this album and where it's been sampled a million times. This one is interesting because it's really, just, people like us sitting around talking about it. And the way they just goat over it is really interesting. So let's hear these hip hop. So these are some great hip hop heads, DJs talking.
Okay, cool. And
Dave and I cannot speak for the hip hop world as well as we respect it. I don't know, unless you can. I can't. I can't talk Kool Moe Dee.
Hey, but we are recruiting hip hop experts for Blown Speakers. So if you'd like to join us, please.
And I'll be battling. I can battle you at any time.
Yeah. And you could do the inchworm thing too, right? Can't you?
Oh, shit. Yeah. Okay. The inchworm, he says.
What's it called?
It's the worm, bitch.
Worm.
Telling me, talking sizes and inches and shit. What you trying to come at me? I'll see you on the dance floor, boy.
All right, let's check this out.
Next on the menu, ESG, Emerald, Sapphire, and Gold. And the cut is UFO.
Oh, boy.
And Marco, this is one of yours. Let's hear this.
Yeah, I want to let it play so Ace can hear it. This is the most New York sounding shit ever.
Yeah.
Ultimate beats and breaks.
Yep. Totally.
Shouts to Breakbeat Lou.
We're at 45, so hold on. There you go.
Right, but you know what? I'm glad you did that because everybody sped it up to make that shit work.
Right.
That sound alone right there, this distorted guitar has been in so many songs.
Yes.
Hundreds of records.
Like literally, it's the perfect, producers use it as the perfect filler sound. Like, yo, I need some shit to just,
in that blank air.
Like that can repeat over drums and you're like, yes, I want to rap on that. Like it's the most New York sounding breakbeat ever. When I hear it, it just instantly, I'm like, I'm in New York. And this record right here, I'm going to pick it up.
Yeah.
Was the first album I ever spent over $50 on at A1. I just wanted the original because I had used it in a record. I'm not going to say what record, but man, it's just filthy. And their whole catalog is dope. It's just really just raw drums and bass line sounds. Like producers for bass sounds.
You're giving out secrets now.
How about I've never seen the cover before? I only know this record from Super Disco Beats and Breaks.
Exactly.
I never knew what that was.
Yeah, it's a rare record. It's not going to pop up these days like that. So that's why I paid a little bit more than I usually would. But I just love listening to this record. I'm trying to think of people who used it. Like besides the one sound, Junior Mafia, I'm pretty sure was an album cut. And they just kind of straight.
Rhyme right over it.
Yeah, they rhyme right over.
This is one of the joints dudes who rhyme over too, just straight like that with a DJ cutting it.
It's so perfect. Yeah, it's kind of hard to unless you just loop it straight or use the guitar because the drums are so heavy. It's like you have to. There's not a lot of open parts except that beginning. But literally, whoever played, I got to look up the musicians. Whoever played that distorted guitar sound, it's like, I don't know. That's the perfect filler sound producer for me, and it just has this vibe to it, dark, grimy, me likey.
The what's crazy is this band is almost all female except this one guy right here, so
I stay away from touching anything from their catalog now because they are on it.
Yes. They released a record called Samples Don't Pay Our Bills or something. The sample credits don't pay our bills,
They're on it. But it was a super raw sounding band. Like I said, it was really just like a singer, percussion, bass, and drums. And
Yeah.
And it was like some boogie, like, yeah, man.
Yeah,
that whole album
record.
is dope too. There's a lot of joints, but this one is so special.
In the, about 2 minutes ago on that record, it sounded like the sample from Live at the Barbecue. Was that it? What the very beginning?
That beginning part is Nautilus. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Not the Nautilus part.
It was like a little crash. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think? Is that good?
Yeah. Oh, it's so great.
Yeah, I see what you mean. And even then, they're not even using the titles that we had talked about. Like no wave and avant-funk and stuff. Like they're just, oh no, this is like boogie hip. Like it's just interesting. Like everybody is. There's something so accessible to the music that everybody just like is able to use it for their own purposes.
Right. And I can only assume the fact that this is a New York City band, that this is a Bronx band, that their albums would have been like there, like physical records would have been concentrated there. Like, where are they selling them? In London, I guess.
Well, and also 99 store, which I'm going to talk about.
And the 99 record store is there. So there you go. So then there you have some solid grooves for like, if this is the dawn of hip hop. 1978 is when Africa Bambaataa and the gang are doing it. Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five are all putting together what becomes, America's next greatest musical cultural export to overtake jazz. It's hip hop, there's no question. And the same way basketball has taken over soccer around the world, now it is hip hop has taken over rock and roll and jazz. And so this music was at the dawn of it. And I mean, to think that this is a seed of an entire genre. So then you have these hip hop producers, these DJs who are just always looking, just like losers like us who go into a record store and thumb through stuff. This is what these guys do, and they'll listen, be like, that 10 seconds I can use in a party, and that'll get me like a good 2 minutes. I can cut that. You know what I mean? You know how DJing works. You're playing it, and then you grab the record and you pull it back around, and then you play it, and then you grab the record. The guy said he cut it so you could play that line for a while, and then you play it again. It goes, you can just do that with their records because they played them so well. And while they're so avant-garde and everything, they did have beats. They just stayed to those great beats. They were really great. So it's such a neat story of a band to have made such a mark in different genres and to be doing this, and still today, I'm sure they're still, but like you said, you can't sample them anymore. They're onto it.
Yeah, and good for them too. I mean, you want them to get some dough out of this, right?
I know. I don't know how that works, and I mean, I remember when they started getting caught, when De La Soul was doing it so much, and they were using, how could they get away with using, they became so popular using Hall and Oates. Like, it's such an in your face, and so of course Hall and Oates are going to be like, hi, because it's such an in your face. But then when you get into the grooves, even today, like they're, even that Marvin Gaye ripoff of what was that, Blurred Lines with Pharrell ripping off Marvin Gaye's let's get it on, but anyway, it's just remarkable how a court of law can construe these things, and the fact that they never got anything.
Wait, Blurred Line, wasn't it someone Thick or whatever?
Yeah, it was Thick. It was Alan Thicke's son, Robin Thicke, with them. But even something obscure, I mean, and all those court cases are fascinating to me, and I use them in the classroom a lot to try to understand how a court of law can use that. And I mean, you can take a whole song and a melody and cross them over and kind of see it, but when you're cutting like 10 seconds of a song and then just looping it, it's really remarkable how that is almost more so a travesty, because then you're just like, it's almost like you're taking my DNA and you're making babies out of me. Like you're taking my sperm and now you're making babies out of me around the world. Like you can't do that at all. It's almost worse because frankly, when Tom Petty won money off of Sam Shepard, isn't that the guy's name? No, not Sam Shepard. What's the fancy British singer who Don't Back Down? Remember that court case recently?
Of course, know the Tom Petty song.
Stay with me, don't back down. What was that
really?
song? He admitted. He's like, Tom Petty was in my mind. He had to pay.
Well, or when Ray Parker Jr. just ripped off Huey Lewis.
That's true. With Ghostbusters?
Yeah.
I Want a New Drug?
I remember when I was a kid, the first time I heard the Ghostbusters song, I thought it was a live version of I Want a New Drug,
I
know,
why
is there a different guy singing and why is he saying Ghostbusters? But
did they actually go to court on that?
Yeah, they did. I think Ray Parker I want to say that Ray Parker I think Huey Lewis won. If I remember correctly.
Well, I'm doing my research for sports. We'll be doing that one, soon. I'm sure. Huey's got a story that I don't think I want to tell. Really.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know enough of what city is he from, Fox? Is he?
It's got to be it's a good old American Midwestern city. It's got to be, or LA. He could be a California guy too. I could see him being California or Cleveland. It's either those two.
Well, I would know if he was Cleveland. Yeah,
you would. But he screams harder rock and roll is still beating.
Oh, I thought he might be Baltimore, but you would know if he was Baltimore, right? But,
yeah, he's definitely not Baltimore. He shouts out all the cities. He's from America. That's what I mean. But like America, so are these great gals, and that's why they're the synthesis of all these musics. They really are. They really, really are the same way Huey Lewis is. If that's how we got to Huey Lewis, come on, like they're not watching the Jacksons. Everybody loves the Jackson 5, so everybody's trying to put
of course. They love, Renee is mentioned again and again. James Brown, how much he loves
James Brown. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
So maybe we'll come back to that because we had a bit about. I wanted to mention just this book. I love this book.
Nice.
Yeah, rip it up and start again. Simon Reynolds, post-punk from 78 to 84, and ESG is featured in here, but it just covers a lot of ground. It's a big, thick book, and it's just a fun book to read, and use the internet, read about a certain scene, certain bands, and then look up the videos or the tracks. And I feel like I really gained a lot of perspective from this book. And I can't recommend it enough. It's awesome. They have a chapter that mentions ESG. So even the way I like how they structure each chapter is like just a little moment in time. So chapter 20 is mutant disco and punk funk, crosstown traffic in early 80s New York and beyond, right? And it starts mentioning when the B-52s came to New York, and they weren't hit. But then we get into some Renee Scroggins quotes. She talks about growing up, right? So the four sisters, and so the parents, John and Helen, is that who they were? I think. But
yeah.
She says, "My mom." This is Renee. My mom didn't want us hanging out on the street, so she bought us some instruments. I was 13. Deborah had to be 7 or 8 years old, and she was playing the bass, right? The Bronx can give you a lot of musical feeling because there's so much stuff going on out there. It has a lot of savage drive with the drum beats and all. The whole summer long, all you hear from sunrise to sunset is the congas in the park back there. It can drive you crazy.
Totally. And the polyphonic rhythm of the congas and then the F train coming by you know, or something. It's industrial and just and organic at the same time. You know, it's amazing. And that's what a city can do to you. Oh, that's so fun to hear her say that. And you hear so many great artists talk about that does remind, I think we already mentioned the Clash. When you hear like Simeons talk about growing up in those neighborhoods of London that were so diverse, and you hear the Caribbean rhythms and the reggae rhythms mixed with, you know, skiffle rhythms, and then pop classics, you know, screaming out of the Victrola, and then some guys playing his clarinet, and then there's some, you know, yeah, that's awesome to hear her say that. And to hear, and I'm sure this book mentions it, is that, you know, you really get to know a multi-genre band like this. Like, what kind of clubs are they playing? Because they are playing, like you said, talent shows and stuff like that. But then once they start hitting, like, where are they going? And they start playing these like little dance halls, and like they're playing like normal clubs, like they're playing some punk rock clubs that also other bands are playing. I'm sure they play CBGBs at sometimes, but I didn't see it on record. But they are playing other kind of like, you know, just dance, like, because disco is waning. So what do they do with those places? Well, they are putting bands on. They're putting bands on, and then people are out there dancing to bands, and they need bands to play. And I think this band is getting gigs all over town, doing that.
So Renee, again. We played Hurrahs, we played Rock Lounge, Peppermint Lounge, Irving Plaza. We opened for Gang of Four. We opened for PIL. We didn't know who they was. We opened for the Clash. Okay. Well, while I have it handy, I'll continue. We met this guy, Ed Ballman, who had a record label, 99 Records. He was one of the judges at a talent show. He became our unofficial manager, and he started booking us in punk rock clubs. Okay.
Right.
And there's just one more quote, because I'm going to talk about this from here, when how they get involved with Tony Wilson. We were playing with a band called A Certain Ratio, and that's where we met Tony Wilson, who had Factory Records. Okay, so Factory Records is a Manchester-based label, Joy Division, etc. And he said to us at the club, "Would you like to do a record?" Next thing I know, 2 days later, we're in the studio with Martin Hannett, and we didn't even know who he was. This is where we did Moody, UFO, and You're No Good, which are now the classic ESG songs. So it's just cool how things were happening.
Yeah, and we may, I don't think we've mentioned it here before, but something does, I mean, I can't say that the singing is the thing that shine, the singing vocal stuff is the stuff that shines on their work. It's punchy, and it comes in and out, you know, appropriately and fun, but it doesn't make you go wow. I think it's the rhythms that make you go wow, and the kind of the cross grooves and things like that. That is something that's interesting, and I'm telling you right here, you being a big ass family man, Mr. Hoenigman, there's some family magic happening here. And I think that if there's a few times in the world where there's this unexplainable kind of musical mystical stuff, I'm sure any music head has heard about the rumor myth of the, what's it called? The blood harmony. You've heard of this, David Hoenigman?
I like the sound of it, but please.
Oh, you like the sound of this, don't you?
Yeah.
Don't you love the sound of this? The Blood Harmony. Yes. You know, that's not a metal band from Michigan. That is a true actual fact that has been, you know, I think hypothesized and theorized that when you get family members, I'm sorry, it's got to be genetic family members. You go on Maury, you come home, and you start singing together. Preferably at an early age, like as soon as you can take direction from your Joe Jackson father or whoever, that you start singing together, preferably in church. God can help the unwilling more, but you move together. You're able to groove together. I mean, so early at an age that when it comes to times like this, like, oh, people are watching. Oh, showtime at the Apollo. Oh, something catches the ear. There's something magical. And this has happened throughout time when you hear, whether it was the Jackson 5, that is their blood harmonies all over that shit. There's no question that when those kids are hitting those notes and making you, oh, baby, give me all that. Although, I mean, Michael's Michael, but it's the whole band working together. It's blood harmonies, the Lovan brothers, you know about them in country music, the Lovin brothers, blood harmonies. There's so many different, sisters and brother acts that's special. This is special because, they're sisters in a band, but it's the groove and not the music. Normally a blood harmony is one that's spoken of. It's vocal. I'm saying, I'm going to put it down here, fresh folks, that you're hearing some musical blood harmonies that can happen between siblings, just with their instruments, which you also have, right? You have that in Van Halen. You have that in other bands where it's just they're not singing together, but they're playing instruments together.
CCR until they hate it.
CCR, of course, the Kinks. You have a lot of great magic happening that isn't only vocally. Oh, yeah, exactly. So I'm saying that if you're wondering why this band, I mean, because again, on a surface level, to a 2020 ears, to our 2020 intellectual ears, you listen to this band, you're like, oh, what's that? I've heard that. That's just that's just that. No. They invented that, and that has been replicated 1,000 million times. So what you're seeing is a dinosaur in the Smithsonian. Like that's how I think great and important probably this band is that we just take it for granted because they're, really putting this down. So anyway, I think that could be, that could be some magic, the familial magic behind this. And you coming from a large family know how magical that is. That can be large families when it's all working. I say that too. Because it's all got to be working. Because no doubt, you notice this band, they're like working for a little while and then they break up and then they get back together. So
I think they did have some of them there was a bit of a falling out later. Yeah,
I'm sure. Of course, you can't hold a band together with 4 family members. I'm surprised they lasted this long.
Yeah. Hey, let me get into the 99 story here. So, so this guy Ed Ballman, who we mentioned a couple times. So his girlfriend was Gina Franklin. Gina Franklin designed that cover. We've been gushing about the cover of that EP. So she had some kind of boutique or shop or whatever. And he decided he wanted to sell records out of the corner of it. The shop was the 99. I'm sorry, 99. Yeah, 99. And so his record label just became 99. And he had some connections to Brit. Oh, maybe she was British. Maybe I don't know, but whatever. There was some inroad there, right? And he took Tony Wilson from Factory Records, right? So Factory Records is like blowing up in England, right? In Manchester.
Yeah, I'd heard that.
I mean, they're kicking ass, right? And he takes Tony Wilson to see, one of the early ESG shows. And yeah, that's what she mentioned in the book. Like Tony Wilson's into it. Next thing they know, they're in the studio with Martin Hannett, right? Okay. I've actually never seen the movie, but for those of you who have seen 24-Hour Party People, Steve Coogan's character in the movie is Tony Wilson from Factory Records.
Oh, Steve Coogan. Yeah. Yeah, he's loved. James, the band James was on Factory.
Okay.
I like.
Yeah, they were huge for a while, right?
Yeah, they were.
I like the logo. Logo is cool.
Totally.
You know, it might
because it's Manchester, man. Manchester's the heart of it all. So much to answer for, Manchester.
Yeah. I might even say I want somehow I want to say that the name Factory Records is a bit of a tribute to Warhol. Please double check that. I think, you know, Warhol's factory.
No, it's because Manchester's started the Industrial
but
Revolution.
I think kind of double meaning.
Yeah, sure.
But,
and Warhol's calling it factory because I think they're in that factory, you know, industrial area of New York. So, and you know, and it's also it's an anti-nod to what they were thinking they were producing. Like they're not a factory. You know, a factory produces one of the same thing. And I think they think of themselves as this no wave, non-commercial. We're not a factory, you know, so they're being ironic too.
Okay, so I'm going to come back to the list of albums that 9/9 put out is worth looking at, but I think my slides are not in the correct order. But yeah, so Edward Ballman, kind of their manager, hooks them up with these British guys. They put out this killer EP. They put out another killer EP. And then it comes to our album we're discussing today. And, you know, as we've been kind of gushing about the EP all this time, I think you should understand that Montgomery and I would never lead you in the wrong direction, right? So, so ESG's first full-length album, right? Our topic today, Come Away with ESG. Pitchfork, you know, to whatever degree you trust them, but their 200 best albums of the 80s, this album is number 50. So, yeah, it's a very influential, badass album. And if, yeah, you're looking for something from this time.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think only because they're not going to, yeah, I think the EP only had the four songs on it.
6, I think. But yeah, like the 3 Hannett ones, and then 3, maybe they were even live, the other 3, but yeah.
That's yeah, they were recorded live at I forget, live at one of those, but yeah. So when this comes out in 83, and yeah, the cover art's cool too. It does reflect on the era.
Yeah.
The New York scene. It's kind of fun, you know, like that. And it's got a lot of different songs too, because I think those 6 songs too are all kind of similar. These songs, there's a lot more of them. Still a short album, but it's a lot of songs, and there's at least a bunch of different varieties on it. You know, it's not all the same song, because this band you can be like, oh, drum bass, but no. There's some mixing it up. They're mixing it up.
And look, it always has to mention something like this, right? It ended up placing them smack in the middle of the Venn diagram of post-punk, rap, and house, bubbling in the. So anything you see about them was just be a wall of, you know, labels of different genres, right? You know.
Yeah,
it's cool. It's cool. Well, this is 9/9, the record label's output. So Glenn Branca, you know, who died a few years ago, but he was, yeah, he's another one of those guys, right? Modern, like his music is described as modern classical, avant-garde, no wave, experimental, noise, minimalism. Here's one I hadn't heard, Fox. Totalism. Do you know what that is? Totalism.
Totalism.
Totally. Totalism. I don't know what that is. So
I think that's similar to kitchen sinkism.
But yeah, I've listened to some of his music and watched some of his performances. Like, yeah, he's certainly someone it'd be worth exploring more. But what I think is interesting is, so Glenn Branca, this was the first release.
You can never underestimate a person named Glenn. I mean, I used to always underestimate Glens. Never again. I know more badass Glens. I've never understood how such a boring name could unearth such amazing people.
Well, I'm thinking of Glenn Matlock from the Sex Pistols. Who are some other Glens?
John Glenn. But I mean, I'm a public high school teacher, and one of the most fucking gangsta ass kids I ever had to teach was named Glenn.
Oh, really?
That's ridiculous. Like, this kid came at me. I mean, coward to his mother as well, but named Glenn. You know, I'm just like, good God. I mean, I'll never, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also Glenn Greenwald is a badass reporter for The Interceptor.
Absolutely.
I admire him.
I've read
he's a super badass.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, where the fuck are all these radiant Glens coming from? I have no idea. But I'd never heard of Glenn Braca. Thank you. I will check him out.
Isn't Glenn Hughes one of Judas Priest's guitarists? I think Glenn Hughes.
Yeah.
Glenn Fry.
Yeah, well, I'm not impressed by him.
He's not a good example. Yeah. he just shot the whole thing. But anyways, Glenn Branca. So I think it's interesting. So Glenn Branca and Ed Ballman were good friends, right? So Ed, you know, 99 Records. His first release is Glenn Branca, Lesson Number One, and this album is highly sought, like landmark album. Ooh. People are into it. But Glenn and Ed Ballman were good friends. Like, they seemed on the same page about a lot of things. But Branca wanted Ballman to sign Sonic Youth to 99.
Ooh.
Yeah, and Ballman was against it for whatever reason. He didn't sign Sonic Youth. Branca left 99 and started his own label, I think, called Neutral, which initially signed Sonic Youth.
Wow.
So Ed Ballman was on the ball. He was on the Ballman about ESG, but he kind of dropped the Ballman on Sonic Youth.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
But you see, yeah, all three of the major ESG releases were on 99. ESG. ESG says Dance to the Beat of Moody and Come Away with ESG.
Nice.
Liquid is a band they played with a lot. I don't know a lot about them, but yeah, look, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5
liquid
5 liquid releases. So
that's great.
Hmm.
Yeah, well, there's definitely a vibrant scene with a lot going on. It's you know, I'd like to say that there's just quite a lot of diversity as well. Like, that you didn't always see as many African American acts mixing in with these white acts, and I think maybe that's what it is. You know, because you know, if you hear this band and you think punk, then you see that they're, you know, an African American family, and then you think funk. But what's the bloody difference? You know what I mean? I mean, I think that these girls are probably listening to more soul funk music, you know. But funk at this time, I guess, didn't have such the stripped down stuff. It had horns and stuff. It had some more horns. It was bigger, because we were like into Ohio funk, which was like a lot of synthesizers, right? Wasn't it like, it was like pretty, you know, it was like really like P-Funk was really going crazy. And now this is like, yeah, exactly. Like the Raincoats, stripped down, just the bare essentials of it. So it's funny how they but I mean, there aren't really, what other bands, I don't know where else this band would be playing if they're not playing punk rock clubs. It sounds like they get the occasional dance hall. You know, where else are they going to play? I think they went around. They went over to Europe and played a tour for this record, I think, in the 80s. I think I read they went to Sweden, and because, I mean, they respected kind of like dance music like this, because that's when a band would play, and instead of people watching, they'd be like grooving while watching, you know. And so in Sweden and stuff, they were still doing that back then.
I think I want to play a track. I don't think we've played a track off this album yet, so I would like.
Yeah,
to
let's do it.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear. It's All Right is a fun track that shows off some of their polyrhythms and just highlights some of the grooves of the band.
Okay, let's get into it.
Okay, this is It's All Right. Great song, just highlights the greatness of this album and the greatness of the band. Two great grooves that come in, the bass line, drums, and then the guitar that come in. And I think they do swing opposite of each other, which makes, one of these sounds of this band of just like a family. Like a family sometimes comes down to breakfast. They're going two different directions during that day, but during breakfast in the kitchen, they've got to harmonize and symphonize and get out of each other's way and into each other's way at the same time. And it's got to make it work without pissing each other off before dinner when they see each other again. So that's why I think this band works, because of the family, the familial way about them. So let's listen and see, because you can imagine them saying like, wait, come in, let me get this groove going, and then come in, like they work together. I betcha. Great song. And you hear like a little bit of fancy 80s almost like a auto tune on their voice. It gives them, because I think they're trying to go, because of the UFO thing, they're trying to go with this punk kind of UFO, a lot of that, because even they had like a little 60s guitar that was almost like Twilight Zone riff there. They try to be a little sci-fi at times, I think. Blistering 2-note guitar solo there, but I mean, why do more? That's what a minimalist is. What do you need? A table and a chair. What do you want more?
I didn't think about it until just then, but one reason maybe the British guys were interested in them is the Slits, right? So the Slits had a hit album in England in 79. Yeah, 79. The Cut album was number 30 in the UK, right? So, I mean, you could feel that a bit, you know, like you could see where, you know, those guys would think, okay, this kind of stuff is selling, you know, let's
yeah, and it's what the kids are playing these days.
Yeah.
I think some of those, yeah, I mean, you said it then are we saying that we're just seeing musicians find musicians, or are we saying like, hey, we're trying to find the next band that's going to sell? Because to be honest, that song, you know, we just picked any song that was kind of typical of the band. And I mean, there's a lot of songs, but that particular song, why aren't they trying to put that on the radio? I mean, that's a radio, it's kind of a radio friendly-ish song.
I could see that on MTV with like, you know, one of those, you know, like around the time Pass the Dochi was a big hit, right?
Yeah,
you know, like that kind of vibe.
Yeah. I mean, but again, it's got that minimalist thing, you know, like you know, there isn't much to it. It leaves it up to the, you know, this is a band that kind of leaves more up to the listener. Like, what else do you want from me, the artist? Here's the music. Now you go with it. You know, like, why do I have to sit here and amaze you like Eddie Van Halen? Why don't you just dance and have a good time with your life while I'm providing you a backbeat? You know.
When did Prince's song "Kiss" come out? Because that's considered minimal, right? Like it's just like a bass like. I remember his record company not wanting
to 81 or 82, right? Because Purple Rain is 83, and Kiss came out before that, I thought.
No, I don't think so.
Kiss was after?
Yeah. Oh, Prince was already on top of the world when Kiss came out.
Oh, okay.
So probably 85 or something.
Okay. Well, that's the thing, because that's why this band is ahead of their time then, if Prince is catching up with them later. Because in 83, Prince is huge. You know, Prince's sound is big and it's full rock your jock, you know, whereas this band's like, hey, take it easy.
All right. Yeah, I thought this was interesting. I just found somewhere on the interweb like a early publicity memo. Did you get the memo that ESG are playing? Here, let me blow up the first paragraph. The second paragraph looks like it's about the recording. Yeah, and then the third paragraph is about liquid. But the first paragraph, ESG play their first weekend headline gig Saturday night at Hurrah's, increasingly celebrated by both word of mouth and by critical fascination in the press. The band's deceptively simple, direct funk continues to break new ground while breaking in even larger audiences, predominantly teenaged, ranging from 16 to 23 and based in the South Bronx. ESG is composed of 4 sisters who play drums, bass, vocal, guitar, and conga, joined by an equally talented young male conga player. ESG has a word-defying sound. So even right off the bat, you know, they're already saying, we don't know how to define this. And our friend Robert Christgau, when he wasn't busy bashing Grand Funk Radio, said, give it a second, Grand Funk Railroad.
That was him? That's the same guy.
Yeah. Well, no, Christgau grudgingly said, okay, their third album's kind of okay. But
that's the same guy. Wow.
He was famous for really bashing them. But for odd critics, he called ESG minimalist salsa and bare-boned funk.
I guess with the conga gives it a little salsa. Well, you can go Afro or Latin there. Once you throw a conga in there, you're doing something spicy. And, you know, and whoever this Crisco is, right, and might not know what to do with it. I got to throw a flag on something here. You know, when you call a band a South Bronx band, what does that mean? Is this a is this some hidden kind of language back in the day? Just to say, I mean, because I know my New York City. I'm a Washington D.C. guy, but I know my New York City well, and I know the Bronx is fucking huge. It's not as big as Brooklyn. Sorry, Bronx. But when you say South Bronx, are you saying like you're almost Manhattan, and that there's a different culture? Like, because the Bronx is big, but it's not that big to say that there's a whole different culture in the South of Bronx. So when you say a band is South Bronx, are you saying, like, oh, like they may have a different sound or a different influence, or is that saying that 106th Street is, you know, something that you want to see, but something above 147th Street is something you don't want to see? Like, why make these distinctions? Like the South Bronx band, you know?
Okay, but I think that album you ordered is called South Bronx Story, right?
Yeah, it's the South Bronx Story because they're from the South Bronx. So yeah. I don't know enough about the Bronx, and maybe let's say
this, Fox. Maybe to put a positive spin on it, maybe within the Bronx, you know, everyone's kind of just territorial and proud about which part of the Bronx they're from.
Right.
So maybe
Harlem is in the South Bronx. Yeah, I know. Harlem is in the South, isn't it?
I totally don't know.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah. Harlem is in the South Bronx. So when people start talking about, but I just get, because I mean, people throw around direction or over here, and sometimes it's code words. And I think we're very sensitive in these days and ages to wonder why people throw in these names, because they're trying to say something that is or isn't there. So I put that out to the New York people to wonder why people sectionalize our places and cities, because people have been drawing lines on people's property without them knowing it forever, you know. So it's just funny, you know, the way that is.
Yep.
But that's a fun review, and because and that's a publicity stunt to get the people out there. Absolutely, come hear these kids play this fun music from ages 16 to 23.
Okay. We were talking about the song Tiny Sticks. Is that what it's called?
Tiny Sticks is a great song on this album.
So what is this instrument here, Fox?
It's a vibra slap. It's like a vibra. It's really popularized in a lot of great songs. Probably isn't it in Lowrider?
That makes sense. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
It is in that yeah, like you can't use it all the time. I mean, it's not to be mistaken for it's like the exotic cousin of the cowbell, but you can't, like the cowbell, you can't overuse it. So you have to only you just put in a little dill, you know, it's dill. It's something like red pepper flake that you can't overdo it at all. But oh, do you taste it when it's there? And it means everything almost when it is there, you know, like in any of these songs that you hear where it stands out.
And ESG uses it brilliantly in the track Tiny Sticks. But to me, like I was listening to Tiny Sticks as I was walking down the road the other day with my earphones. And to me, it sounded like the spinner on the Game of Life, right? And it sounded like, and it felt on my earphones, so it felt as if my head was in the middle of this, right? Like I was wearing it like a hat, right? And like someone was spinning it around my head, but they were spinning it kind of really sharply, right? Like they wouldn't let it wind down. It was just like cranking it very sharp.
You were wearing the spinner, and so your head was the apex point.
Yeah,
and your head, your hat was the life spinner.
Yeah. So my head would have been in the center of this.
Gotcha.
Right? In the center of the dial, and it was spinning around me.
They sold those for a while as the Life magazines. It didn't catch on. That's remarkable. That's a great sound. You're right. That is such the sound. As soon as you said that, I thought of that too.
So it's a short little track. So I thought we'd just play it.
Yeah.
So give me a second.
Great. So if you're a kid of Parker Brothers games and life game, then you know this sound. I really can't believe that this instrument's called a vibra slap. That is a pretty lazy sound. I mean, that sounds like an English dumb name. I'll bet you it's called like a Quetzalcoatl or something like that, because it's got the coolest sound. But what else is this? So we're gonna hear Tiny Sticks. This is also getting into their more upbeat punk sound, because this is more of a driving sound, whereas people call them funky, and this is definitely more straight ahead punk. And yeah, it's fun. It's a fun track. And then the Life spinner comes in.
I think it comes in at about the 22nd point, somewhere in there. But yeah, let's give it a whirl. Give it a whirl.
Awesome.
Just to give people an idea, but yeah.
Tito got a hold of that. And he said, we got a song. We gotta do a song with this one. Because that's all Tito. That song's all Tito, Tiny Sticks. Because he's playing, because I mean, that features some sort of woodblock cowbell thing happening with then the vibra slap. That's fun. That's fun. But that's the simplistic kind of sound that this band was loved for, and then of course they're just a karaoke track for every hip hop DJ, because they don't do any, it's just perfect. Well, I'll take that snip, and then you can. Oh my gosh.
I just wanted to mention this guy I found last night, his YouTube site, Seeking a Thread. Yeah, just coincidentally, he just made this like 2 weeks ago. He does a countdown of all the, or I think he does it in chronological order. He goes through all the 99 records, albums. I think he has them all. And it's just cool. He shows the records.
From 99 records, from that label.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So he has the whole catalog, and he just goes through them one by one, just sharing them. And yeah, he was cool. An ESG fan. So yeah, if you're interested, check. Okay, and he does a nice mix in here of he shows a clip where he puts together a bunch of the artists who sampled UFO.
Oh, he did that. I saw that.
Yeah.
Really well done.
Yeah,
really
so
well done.
It's definitely worth watching. Anyone who's interested in this, in our topic today.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything to say in closing, Montgomery?
Well, I'm a fan of Emerald. Emerald is my birthstone, so I got to say that I'm more of the Emerald persuasion. But I definitely dig what they're doing here. I think I definitely dig the irony of everything that's a part of this, so that this is a band that symbolizes America, just like all these other great bands, that they get clumped into a no wave, no commercialism movement, yet they get stolen and commercialized unbeknownst to them.
Wow.
And they try to get it back later. And then they get put into like a Hollywood movie by, you know, big time guy, Nicolas Cage. And they're like, of course, we'd love to be in your movie. But, you know, because by then they're like, oh my gosh, you know, we'd love to get any publicity because we're, you know, just struggling artists. It's just so, and this band is just great that way. And they did have a resurgence, and like a lot of these bands from the 80s and 90s are having resurgences now. So definitely check them out. You can still see what they're doing and buy their records. They're reissuing more records all the time. It's definitely worth seeing that. But it's refreshing as listeners and also as cultural participants to watch our you know, the way we define things and label things, and to just also, you know, to be cautious of those labels at the same time, you know, appreciate why in the past and why in the future we should, you know, why we use them and what they mean, you know, and never turn away from a sound if it sounds one way. You know, I think it's also good to just say like, hey, people are talking about this album for a reason. Give it a chance, you know, because I think you really gotta, you know, you gotta listen in for a second and to understand that, yeah, where this family is coming from and where this music, you know, is. I think that's special. The fact that they're all together, that they're a family. I think that's why they're making some special music there. I think absolutely.
Yeah, you mentioned about their resurgence. There's some good clips on YouTube about them, you know, playing live within the last 4 or 5 years. Like even looks like fairly big festivals in Europe and everything. So check those out if you're interested. What do you think? I thought we'd go out with the last song on the album. The one about the roller coaster. What's the title of that one?
Yeah, that's great. That song's great. Dance is great. There's a lot of great songs, but the roller coaster is great on this one too. Yeah.
It is called My Love for You.
Yeah, My Love for You.
Okay. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us. That has been episode 23. Thank you, Montgomery.
Thank you, buddy. It was great. Great time. Great time. Great band. And I wanted to give one last shout out. I didn't say how I first heard of this band. I first heard of this band through an organization called Girls Rock. So Girls Rock is an organization. It's an international organization, but was started by the band members of Sleater Kinney out in Portland. And it's a band. It's an organization just for young women who who want to like learn musical instruments, because over the years, I think it's obvious that, you know, rock and roll and the music industry has been a mostly male dominated industry. And so this organization started up in the early 2000s, Girls Rock. Hey, summer camp or whatever, it could be an after school camp for girls 8 to 18 or 6 to 16, whatever. Come in. Girls only, because, you know, it's okay just to have girls have a space to just do what they do, teaching about rock and roll, teaching about rock history. My wife, Jen, started the DC chapter of Girls Rock with some other great women here in the city. And so when they were doing their thing, I was helping out a little, and I saw that one of the band rooms, they'd have band rooms, and it was an ESG band room and had the band's picture. Wow. And I'm like, who are they? You
That's awesome. Wow.
And that was my first come across of them. And I'm like, oh. And then, but I had never heard of them before. So this was just about, you know, just 10 years ago, first coming across, but then the deep dive happened here. So it's just great that there's so many still, that we can still find so much great music out there.
Wow. That's great. Okay. All right. Okay, all right. Thanks again, everyone. We're going out with My Love for You. The last track off Come Away With Me by ESG. Have a great weekend, everybody.